Not a big fan of staying overnight at the company. The thought of curling up to sleep in a cramped car or waking up in the middle of the night in the darkness of an unfamiliar place made me uneasy. I can understand it if it's at a roadside rest area or service area, but I honestly never understood the feeling of spending the night in a parking space on the side of a deserted mountain road or in a place far from any town. She was the kind of person who enjoyed those kinds of moments. It seems the trigger was a video from overseas called Wan Lai Bu. He often watched videos of people sleeping in their cars, making coffee on the beach in the morning, or cooking simple meals in the mountains, and he said he wanted to try something similar himself. At first, it was just like an extension of day trips, but eventually I built a small shelf in the car, got a sleeping bag and a portable power supply, and started taking videos every time I went out. I once told him to stop because it was dangerous. Each time, she would reply that she never goes to dangerous places and always stays within a safe area where there are people around, so it's fine. He said that he wanted to keep the videos as a record for himself rather than show them off to anyone, but to me, the danger of being alone in a car at night was more apparent than any enjoyment he might have felt. So the reason I slept in my car at that location wasn't because of my hobby or to get a change of scenery. That was because she had gone missing there a few months earlier. A little way from the kendo dojo, there's an old, shelter-like space. The area is paved, but there are no white lines, so it's unclear whether it's an official parking area or not. During the day, locals might stop their cars there for a short break or something, but at night there's hardly any traffic, and with the headlights off, my car looked like it had been left behind. Across the road is a small forest. Even though it's called a forest, if you look at the map, it's just a green space, and there aren't really any paths that could be called hiking trails. I don't know what it's like further inside, but at least near the entrance the grass was just a little dense, and it didn't look like the kind of place where someone would normally get lost. Her car was found a short distance from the evacuation site. The door wasn't locked. My wallet, driver's license, and change of clothes were all still inside the car. There was also a smartphone. There were no signs of ransacking inside the car, nor any evidence of a struggle. An unedited video, likely the last one taken, remained on that smartphone. The beginning contained the same kind of footage as usual. I'm boiling water in a small pot inside the car in the evening. I'm laughing because it's colder outside than I expected after transferring the materials I bought at the convenience store. She says, "I can see a forest outside the window," and points the camera slightly. There's nothing special about it. It was the kind of record she often kept. The problem was the short video clip that remained at the very end. There's less than a minute. The screen shows a forest at night. It's unclear whether the light source is a smartphone flashlight or a light attached to a small camera, but only the trunk of the tree in the foreground and the undergrowth are highlighted in white, while everything beyond that is black and crushed. The camera was shaking as I walked, and all I could tell was that someone was moving through the woods. Then the back of a woman is visible in the background of the screen. A woman wearing thin, nightgown-like clothing stands with her back to the viewer in the forest. Her hair was a little longer than shoulder length, and her feet were hard to see because it was dark. Her face is never shown. However, I immediately recognized it as her based on the style of her clothes and the length of her hair. No matter how many times I watched it, I still didn't understand it. If she's standing there, then who's taking it? There might have been someone else there besides her. I think everyone would think that way at first. I was the same. But even after reviewing the belongings left in the car, the records of my activities that day, and the footage from nearby security cameras, there was no evidence that I was with anyone. Apparently, there was no indication that she had given anyone a ride, nor any evidence that she was meeting anyone. The police said they hadn't completely ruled out the possibility of foul play. However, there was no evidence to make a definitive conclusion. Even after searching the forest, nothing that could be identified as hers was found. It was briefly covered in the news once, and since then, only family and acquaintances have been appealing for information. I watched that video over and over again. I brightened the screen. I turned up the volume. I listened with earphones. I watched it by slowing down the playback speed and pausing it as needed. Is there anything reflected on the bridge in the video? Do the shadows of the trees look like human figures? I checked dozens of times to make sure she wasn't muttering anything. But all I could see was the forest and her back. There's hardly any sound. The only sounds in the video were a slight tremor in the hand holding the camera and the rustling of grass underfoot. The video was unnaturally quiet. I only started going to that place after the investigation was scaled down. Nobody asked me to do it. I've never even told my family. I just couldn't leave it alone. What did she see in the end? Why did I go into the forest in the middle of the night still wearing my pajamas? Why was he standing there with his back to the wind like that? Who took that photo? I simply couldn't go back to my normal life without knowing about it. I'd said it several times during the day, but just once I started to think I should try spending the night there, just like her. What did she hear? What did she see? And why did she get out of the car that night? I wanted to confirm that in a way that was as close to reality as possible. Even after folding down the back seats and spreading out my sleeping bag, I didn't feel the freedom she often talked about. It had been perfectly sunny outside, but as night fell, a damp smell wafted from the forest. When I opened the window just a little, I smelled a mixture of earth and mosquitoes, so I closed it immediately. Inside the car were a small lamp on a portable power supply and some bread and water I'd bought at a convenience store. I had my smartphone on the passenger seat. I watched her last video that night too, even though I knew I shouldn't watch it. Before I knew it, I was playing the music. In the screen, the back of a person wearing light-colored pajamas stands deep in the forest. Nothing happens. They don't even look back. After stopping playback for the umpteenth time, I heard the sound of branches rustling outside. At first, I thought it was the wind. In a place surrounded by forest, branches will grow even without anything else around. When small animals pass by, the grass moves too. I told myself that, turned off the lamp and got into my sleeping bag, but after a while I could hear the sound again. This time it sounded less like a branch shaking and more like someone stepping on the undergrowth, and the sound became fainter and then stopped. Leave it for a bit and it will happen again. There was a rhythm that wasn't regular, but it was different from the wind. I held my breath inside my sleeping bag. It was pitch black outside the car, and only the outline of the forest was visible beyond the windshield. There is no town. Whenever a car comes from the direction of the kendo course, its headlights briefly shine in, but that didn't happen this time. There was a sound. This time it was a little closer. I slowly sat up and looked towards the passenger seat. The smartphone was there. The screen is off. I could have picked it up if I wanted to, but for some reason at that moment I grabbed the pocket phone I had in the door pocket instead of my smartphone. Looking back, that might have been a good thing. I watched the forest from inside the car for a while. I could no longer hear any sound, but the feeling that something was there never went away. It felt less like sensing a human presence and more like I was being watched. I had a feeling they knew we were hiding in the car, holding our breath. You shouldn't go outside. That's what I thought. I knew that. Nevertheless, I opened the door. Cold air flowed into the car, and the evil wheel at my feet seemed to shrink. When I turned on the flashlight, the white light illuminated the road bridge and the entrance to the forest. Even though I'd seen this place many times during the day, when it was framed by the light of night, each tree looked like something completely different. I put the car keys in my pocket and didn't touch my smartphone, which was on the passenger seat. I heard the sound of footsteps on the undergrowth again from the direction of the forest. Someone goes further inside. The moment I thought that, the idea that it was her automatically popped into my head. It's not about logic. Even though I knew it couldn't be true, I felt I had no choice but to follow this sound if she was still here. I gripped the traditional item in my pocket tighter and entered the forest. The flashlight's light was less reliable than I expected. If I shone it on my feet, I couldn't see what was in front of me, and if I shone it in front of me, I couldn't see the branches and stones at my feet. I stopped several times as I moved downwards towards the sound. I didn't intend to go any further inside. It shouldn't have been that far from the car. I thought that if I looked back I would be able to see the dark lines of the kendo or the outline of my car, but after taking just a few dozen steps, all I could see behind me were tree trunks and undergrowth, and the position of my car and the direction of the road suddenly became vague. It's better to go back now. Just as I was thinking that, I saw something white move between the trees ahead. At first I thought the light from the monster lamp was reflecting off my teeth, but that white thing flowed sideways as if trying to escape the light. For a fleeting moment I could see the shape of a human shoulder beyond the branches and a thin piece of cloth swayed. I held my breath. Hey, I thought I was singing to you, but it was so quiet I couldn't even hear it myself. The white thing passed through the trees again. I instinctively chased after it. The traditional light from the pocket lighter hits me, falls onto the undergrowth, and then hits Mickey. I heard a loud crunching sound of footsteps on branches at my feet in the middle of the night, but a little further ahead, I heard another set of footsteps, erratically and as if they were trying to escape. It was a woman. A woman wearing thin, pajama-like clothing was running through the forest. It's unclear whether they are naked or wearing shoes. However, his steps were extremely unsteady, and it looked less like he was running away from something and more like he was trying to get away from the situation as far as he could without knowing which way to go. I thought it was her. Her hair length and shoulder shape were just like the girl I knew. The person who disappeared a few months ago couldn't possibly be running through this forest now. I knew that. Even so, what you understand and what you see are two different things. I called her name. The woman didn't look back. I couldn't tell if they couldn't hear me or if they could hear me but were unable to react. I called out again, this time in a louder voice than before, but the woman still kept her eyes forward and continued to move further in, avoiding the branches. It seems she's being chased by something. That's what I thought, so I have to help. Whatever I saw at that moment, I knew I shouldn't lose sight of her if she was there, but the distance between us didn't shrink. The woman appeared to be running, but she wasn't particularly fast. He seemed to lose his footing repeatedly, leaning on trees for support and breathing heavily. This wasn't a place where I could run at full speed either, but it was still a distance I could normally catch up to. Yet all I could see was a white back in the bridge of my flashlight's light, and whenever I tried to get closer, a tree trunk or branch would always get in the way. The forest was deeper than I had expected. That can't be true. When I walked there during the daytime, I could hear the sound of the road after walking just a short distance. Even if you went too far in, you could find your way back as long as you didn't go in the wrong direction. But that night, I couldn't hear any sounds of cars or any signs of kendo practice. The only sounds I could hear were my own heavy breathing, the rustling of the grass underfoot, and the footsteps of the woman ahead of me. Eventually, the woman stopped. He didn't suddenly stop running. Its pace slowed gradually, as if its strength to escape had run out, and finally it came to a halt in a clearing among the trees, its back to the camera. I also stopped a few steps back. She stands in the forest with her back to the camera. I tried to call out, but my throat was blocked and I couldn't speak right away. Is the woman standing in front of me her, or is it something else entirely? I was unable to make that decision. My hand trembled as I pointed the traditional pocket sword. At that moment, something moved between the trees behind her. Someone was there. A small light flickered in his hand. It was a faint, square light like the screen of a smartphone or the monitor of a small camera. He slowly approached her, taking her back. "Who's there?" This time a voice spoke. The figure did not react. I approached her as she stood with her back to me, holding something in front of her chest. His steps were slow. The hand holding the camera was shaking, causing the square light to blur slightly from side to side. I pointed my flashlight at it. The light was blocked by the branches, illuminating only the upper half of the human figure. That moment froze. That person was also her. The same pajamas, the same hair, the same shoulder shape, the same timid footsteps as they moved forward. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I thought the image of her standing with her back to me and her taking the photo was burned into my memory like an afterimage. But the two of them were actually moving separately. One person stood with their back turned, while the other approached them, camera in hand. The woman taking the photos got closer to the woman who was standing still, and her steps became slower as she approached. It seemed like he was starting to realize something. As I got closer, I realized that the figure with its back turned to me in the dark forest was actually my own. As she was taking photos at a place called Soho, her hand went down. At that moment, the woman who had been standing with her back to me slowly vanished. It didn't vanish like smoke. Even though I hadn't taken my eyes off it, the white back that should have been there became indistinguishable from the darkness of the forest. The personality faded away as if dissolving, and when the flashlight's light flickered again, there was nothing left. The woman who was taking the photos stood there for a while. Then, as if realizing what he had been holding, he suddenly backed away. The next moment, she ran away. This time, she was the same as the first time I'd seen her. I ran through the trees, not knowing where I was going. He kept running away, his legs leaking repeatedly, but without ever looking back. I tried to chase after him. But my legs wouldn't move. My mind refused to accept what had just happened before my eyes. The woman who was taking the camera runs away. The girl who ran away is now the girl I was chasing just now. Exhausted, I stopped and turned my back. She reappears behind him, camera in hand. I understood. She hadn't been taken away by someone else. She found herself, took it, realized it, ran away, and then returned to being taken away again. I took a step forward to try and help. At that moment, I saw a white back again in the depths of the forest. It was the girl who had supposedly run away a moment ago. Another woman appeared from behind her. He was holding the camera in front of his chest. I shouted, Did he call her name or did he tell her to stop? I don't even know myself. Only a sound came out, but neither of the two girlfriends reacted. I couldn't tell if my voice wasn't reaching them or if the place where I was and the place where they were weren't even the same. She raised her camera and moved closer to his back again. She stands there, not looking back. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. I ran back the way I came, still clutching my flashlight, but I didn't know which way I had come. It's supposed to be such a small forest. A branch at my feet sprang up and something's teeth bit the side of my face. I ran towards where the car was supposed to be, stumbling over and over again. I heard the sound of footsteps on the grass behind me. I didn't look back. If I turned around, I felt like she would be there. Or perhaps I had a feeling she was there, holding a camera. Either way, I thought I shouldn't watch it. I pointed the flashlight beam only straight ahead. But just once a single shadow was visible in the light. It wasn't a white nightgown. It wasn't her either. A man was standing among the trees. It was dark and I couldn't see their face, but I recognized it as myself based on the color of their jacket and the backlight. He had his back to me and was looking into the depths of the forest. It stood motionless with its head slightly bowed as if waiting for something. I didn't say a word. He didn't even frown. I just ran. I didn't know how far I ran. When the trees suddenly thinned out and the ground beneath my feet turned into gravel, I finally knew I had left the forest. My car was right in front of me. When I started the engine and turned on the lights, the entrance to the forest appeared as a white outline beyond the windshield. There was nothing there. There was no woman, no camera light, and no back of a man who resembled me. Even then, I couldn't bring myself to look in the rearview mirror. Looking around, I had a feeling someone was still standing deep in the forest. I drove off. We still don't know if she's alive or dead. All I know is that they're still in that forest. I'm not asking for help. They're not trying to run away anywhere. She finds herself in the forest at night, takes a picture of herself, notices, runs away, and stands there with her back to the camera again. They are still repeating that pattern. I haven't watched her last video since that night. Sometimes I find myself wondering about this. Was that man's back I saw while escaping from the forest really just a mistake? If I had gone into the forest with my smartphone that day and taken pictures just like her, and if my back was in the direction the camera was pointed, I feel like I could never go back in time. I'm never going near that little forest again.